um, trying to really solve a problem that, quite frankly, I'm probably most passionate about solving when I launched CU Collaborate 11 years ago. And sorry, I'll do an introduction first, which is I'm Sam Brownell. I'm the founder and CEO of CU Collaborate. I had previously worked at a company called Callahan and Associates and left and started CU Collaborate about 11 years ago, really with the goal of solving this problem of basically like how do we help credit unions capture significant market share. And I was sort of a evangelist for credit unions, going around telling people about the merits of credit unions, and they'd sort of ultimately end up asking sort of like what credit union they should join. And I was always upset that I didn't have a good answer for that, and that there wasn't a industry-wide solution that could help a consumer figure out, what credit unions they're eligible to join and which one would be best for them. I don't know if I would say out of my own failings or not, but for a number of different reasons, C Collaborate did not really get going for about 5 years. And the first things that we really got traction with were around consulting, actually around field of membership consulting, and then helping people access, obtaining low income designations, CDFI certification. Now we're doing stuff with mergers, data analytics, branch strategy, a whole lot of sort of like business consulting, growth consulting for credit unions. But solving this problem was something that was very difficult to prioritize as a bootstrap company. And I think actually, as I get into sort of like our business model for it, I think it'll become very clear why. But it is still a thing that I'm really passionate about. And I'm now sort of we became a QSO last year, and we are in a much better position to focus on solving this problem. So we are refocusing our efforts on that and looking for some early adopters to help us sort of pilot it and iterate our ideas on it. So I know that we'll be running at least one sort of poll question today. I would also really encourage any one with questions to ask questions through the chat. Or Pete, I don't know if there's a different method that you would like them to ask questions through other than chat, but if there is, feel free to let them know now. Chat's good? All right, perfect.
Chat's good.
All right, perfect. So yeah, collaborative marketing and really helping attract new members to credit unions at a low cost is sort of like the holy grail from my perspective on building a sustainable credit union movement. And now is probably a better time than ever to focus on this. There's actually increased interest in joining a credit union. This is from Google in terms of like the number of people searching for how to join a credit union. Sort of interest in credit unions is higher than ever. Actually, if you look at it, just last month was the same sort of search volume as Bank Transfer Day, which is sort of like you were around working for credit unions back then. It was sort of like a legendary day. Back with like Occupy Wall Street, where a lot of people moved their money from banks to credit unions, and credit unions noticed a sort of significant bump in growth in membership. But there are some problems with consumers searching to try and join credit unions, and a lot of it is when you are doing that, sort of like one of two things happens. One is some of the credit unions that people are most interested in joining are closed charter credit unions. Navy does multiple Super Bowl ads each year, and they're very clear that they only serve the military and their family. People still are trying to figure out how to join Navy. Also, state employees is generally a closed charter, and people are trying to join closed seg charters, which contributes to the fact that 40% of consumers don't think they're eligible to join a credit union at all. You can imagine if you're a consumer who doesn't know much about credit unions, You get sold on the idea that a credit union is better than a bank and might be able to solve your financial problems in a better way. You then try and figure out how to join a credit union, and you are unable to figure out a credit union that you're eligible to join. You can imagine why that would sort of build on that myth, even though every consumer in America is eligible to join at least 15, and I would argue over 100 different credit unions. Many consumers aren't successful when they try and join a credit union, so they feel like there actually isn't anyone for them. Um, the other thing that we see a lot of is that the particularly sort of like fintech models that are trying to go out and get new members for credit unions are really sort of only partnering with credit unions with national charters or very large credit unions. And as a result of that, we are seeing credit union growth, like membership growth, really focused on the largest credit unions, and smaller credit unions are seeing negative, um, a decline in their membership. They're attracting less and less new members, and that is a real problem for the movement and something that we would like to solve. And so the way I would like to solve that is through collaborative, a successful collaborative, sustainable collaborative marketing effort. And so I really delved into why in the past those efforts have failed. I have some terrible updates on these fronts, but in the past, when we first tried to pursue this, I think I interviewed like 150 different credit union executives about their experience with collaborative marketing campaigns. And almost entirely, the answer was sort of like, we believe in it. I mean, credit unions will put money behind things that they can see are good things, like sort of like, I'm going to say morally good things, but ultimately they need to be able to quantify how it is a responsible use of their members' capital. And so they need a way to quantify what their ROI is, and ideally, focus on a positive ROI. So how many new members are you getting, and are you getting those new members at a reasonable cost? Just recently you had the Open Your Eyes campaign, which raised over $50 million, and basically no longer exists, which is very unfortunate, a huge wasted opportunity. And a big reason that did not work is they did not focus on both a quantifiable ROI, but also their ways of gaining consumers' attention they were expensive ways. So they showed good results in terms of sort of impressions and visibility, but it was expensive, and they didn't actually end up focusing on attracting new members or new loans. They said the goal, I mean, I think it ultimately stemmed from the goal, but raising consideration, it's hard to justify continued investment in something where you can't show what the end result was for the credit union. Um, yeah, so I boiled those down to sort of three different main points. So measuring positive ROI. The other part is I had it sort of described as sort of like the catcher's mitt, but the call to action for the consumers who they were getting attention didn't end up solving the consumer problem. You're saying, okay, join a credit union, but their credit union finder just focused on um, proximity and not field of membership eligibility. So it was actually, they were spending money to compound that original problem, the sort of 40% of consumers who didn't think they were eligible to join a credit union at all. You can imagine if you're going to a website saying, open your eyes to a credit union, find a credit union to join, and then you go through their search functionality, and the recommendation it makes for you is a credit union that you are not eligible to join. It's very understandable that consumers would then think there must be no credit union that I'm eligible to join. So that was a big problem too. And then, yeah, I've already touched on this, but their sort of marketing strategy was an expensive marketing strategy. So what does a successful collaborative marketing effort really need to have to ensure success? Measurable ROI, so that you can actually show credit unions what they have gotten out of their contributions to a collaborative marketing initiative. It needs to solve the consumer issue. So it needs to find credit unions that for consumers that they're actually eligible to join, so that they can actually, find ones that will potentially solve their problems. And it needs to get results at low costs. And so that is why we are focusing, reinvigorating our efforts around credit union match. And our model, credit unions would only pay for the value they get back. So you would only pay for results. So only when you get a new member, only when you get a new loan, you're only paying for what you get, not for contributing to a idealistic mission, but for real results that are measurable. Also, and I think I'm probably bearing the lead a little bit here, but we have built what we call like a intelligent routing layer. So um, it we have a database of every credit union's field of membership and have made a elegant field of membership decision engine where we can figure out all the credit unions that a consumer is eligible to join, and then just present them with options for credit unions that we know that they're eligible to join and we know why they're eligible to join. And then I will say the thing that has sort of prevented us from doing this, and is a strategy that honestly we sort of only came up with recently, was a collaborative SEO strategy. So we did sort of focus on SEO, so we made our website SEO optimized to a degree, but we realized that by having more and more credit unions basically point, in sort of crude terms, I'm going to say it's actually like follow backlinks, but sort of point, indicate to search engines that credit union match is a site where consumers can find credit unions they're eligible to join, and sort of like keywords, important keywords, high value keywords, then search engines would identify that that website has high, it should build the domain authority, so that it will rank higher and higher, and the customer new member acquisition cost should go lower and lower the more and more credit unions that add follow backlinks to credit union match. So literally, as more and more credit unions start to participate in this collaborative marketing initiative, each subsequent credit union should drive down the cost to acquire new members for all the other credit unions. This is a nice visualization that sort of represents that. So, if each credit union website sort of points to credit union match as the hub, the find a credit union to join website, that will help it rank first overall. And yeah, so why SEO? It is the compounding domain authority is a better for way of succinctly describing what I just said. But really, as the longer it lives and the more and more credit unions that point to it as the authoritative place to find a credit union to join, the higher and higher it will rank, the higher and higher traffic it should get, the more and more consumers should go through it. And really the cost for should never really increase. Like the cost to increase SEO is primarily through getting those backlinks and then just maintaining the website and making sure that the website's optimized. So it's a truly sort of collaborative marketing, low cost collaborative marketing strategy. And people again only pay for what they get from it. And then going to the acquisition cost. And generally, credit unions are paying more than this. And Pete, I don't know if this is the time when you could run the survey or not, but one of the things that has been very interesting to me, and I've always sort of explained it to new people who join CU Collaborate, is that credit unions as nonprofit financial institutions should not, and generally are not willing to pay as much for a new, for us member, generally the sort of typical language would be customer, as a bank would. So in really competitive customer acquisition strategies, credit unions should not be willing to pay as much as for-profit entities. Credit unions are not trying to maximize profit. So they don't generally make as much money from a new member as a bank would make from a new customer, and therefore shouldn't be willing to pay as much, and generally are not. So really the most sort of sustainable new member acquisition strategies need to basically figure out below market acquisition strategies. That's generally why sort of like business development is very positive, and working with partners where the credit union's lower pricing creates enough of a benefit for a partner to sort of co-market the credit union, or in this case, where collaborative marketing and this sort of shared compounding domain authority and backlink strategy would allow one site to rank higher than any one credit union website ever would be able to, and then distribute the traffic that comes through that collaborative marketing strategy um, proportionally accordingly to sort of like field of membership eligibility, and have people only pay for what they get from the program. But it would be very helpful. One of the things that I've sort of been talking about internally is that there are, if I go back to um, some of the like fintechs, they are generally working with the credit unions that um, do have sort of more national reach and are willing to pay more per new member than the average credit union is. And for this to really work as a collaborative marketing initiative, we need to figure out what the average credit union would be willing to pay for a new member. So I know we would like to run a survey, and if the survey doesn't work, if you could just put in the chat what you think your credit union would be willing to pay to, not like for an actual new member that has joined your credit union. That'd be very helpful for us as we try and figure out, um, yeah, the correct pricing for this and whether it'll be enough to sustain the strategy.
Yeah, we got a couple responses in the poll, Sam. So
Oh, awesome. Thank you. I can't see it while I'm presenting, so that was helpful. Thank you. Um, yeah, so we have built the intelligent routing layer, so we know we have every credit union's field of membership, and sort of no matter how niche your field of membership is, we can figure out if people are eligible to join it based on where they live, who they work for, where they worship, what type of place they're with. Like truly, we've honestly built it to solve every type of field of membership rule, so it is very robust and probably made it more sophisticated than we needed to. Um, So no matter how sort of like narrow your field of membership is, we could route the consumers who are eligible to join your credit union to your credit union, and you'd only pay for the people who fall within that. So this is sort of like yes, we could support the national credit unions, but also seg-based, tip, associational, any type of charter we can deal with, whether your field of membership is based on census tracts or yeah, any type of affinity. And then this is really what it sort of boils down to, which is in this model, I mean, it's collaborative not only with the number of credit unions coming together and each of their backlinks contributing to increased visibility of the web page, but also with CU Collaborate. So CU Collaborate would be responsible for running the website. And I will say, if you go and look at the website right now, it is not something I would show someone and be like, I'm so proud of this beyond the results, quite frankly. And I'll show that towards the end, which is like, despite not warranting a huge amount of investment on our side, we've sort of validated the strategy already, and we're generating actually a lot of new members for our clients, but we haven't built a sort of like business motion around it. And that's what we're trying to do now. And then as we can validate that credit unions are willing to pay for new members from a business perspective on C Collaborate side, it will justify us investing more in improving the website and focusing on, improving all the things in the sort of like C Collaborate column here. The shared responsibilities that both C Collaborate and participating credit unions will both be responsible for, and if we're using like a RACI matrix, which is what we're using a lot internally in C Collaborate, I'd basically be like, C Collaborate is ultimately accountable, but credit unions are responsible for these things, where we will basically, what that means is like, we would tell you if you haven't done something we need you to do properly, but we would still need you to do these things, which would basically be like set up the backlinks, make sure they're structured as follow backlinks, make sure they're structured in the right way to optimize for the search terms that we're trying to optimize for, to make sure that the website continues to gain more and more domain authority. So like each new credit union that we get to join, we'll be going through a process to make sure those backlinks are set up correctly. I would also say, and actually I will show you this, it's really sad, quite frankly, but a huge thing that the past awareness campaigns had done a very good job of is basically every time credit unions were interviewed by the press, they did mention sort of like the generally both CUNA and NAFCUs, now it's America's Credit Unions, but both of their sort of collaborative marketing initiatives, which did help a lot with SEO. Unfortunately, they've abandoned those domains, which is what I'm going to show you in a second. But making sure that we get sort of like backlinks, not just from credit unions' own websites, but anytime there's press about credit unions, will be very important too. And we'll both share the responsibility for that. And then the thing that is sort of exclusively on the credit union side, and this is allows us to make sure that we're only charging you for what you get from it, is setting up a way to automate sharing your Aries data with us and mapping your product codes so that we can see, okay, basically like this new member you got in the last week or month came from credit union match, and they got, became a member or got these different products or whatever. So that can all be automated, and the billing and sort of verification of what you got from credit union match can be automated, so we can really track your ROI from the program. Any questions on this? All right, awesome. The other thing that we are tackling, I will say this is perhaps an addition, although actually I would love for it to be part of what we're talking about in terms of a collaborative marketing approach, but is solving field of membership as a point of friction and ultimately abandonment on your own website. So 84% of new members applications on credit unions websites abandon on the field of membership step. And we have done a bunch of research on that and sort of see that the biggest drop off does come on the eligibility step. And that is making your own basically marketing costs much higher or less effective, however you want to think about it. And so we've made a widget that could sit on your website just to consider whether that person is eligible to join your credit union. I will show that in a second. And that can dramatically increase your conversion rate and help you basically attract more new members for your own individual marketing. The thing I would quite frankly love for credit unions to want to do, although I think we have yet to find a single credit union who is willing to do this, but is if someone comes in and they go through the whole sort of eligibility wizard, but they are ineligible to join your credit union. So you get someone who responds to your marketing or comes to your website and they cannot join your credit union. I would love for credit unions to sort of automate sending that to another credit union, and then they could get paid for that referral. Would basically verify where the original, how the person originally sort of entered the funnel and then where they ended up. And then you would get paid for attracting that new member to a different credit union. I'll just be honest, every single one of our clients who's implemented this wizard wants them not to refer them to a different credit union, but to instead call someone to figure out how they can be eligible. But I'm still holding out hope that credit unions will start adopting referring ineligible applicants to other credit unions that they are actually eligible to join. I think it would be better for the consumer. It'd be better for both credit unions. I think it would monetize traffic that would otherwise just go to waste to help you get a higher ROI on your marketing. And it would really help address that sort of perception amongst 40% of consumers that they're not eligible to join a single credit union. If every time a consumer arrived on a credit union's website, they were successful in joining a credit union, whether it's that credit union or a different credit union, it would really help um, sort of raise all, what is it, rising tides, raise all ships or boats or whatever. It would be helpful for the whole industry. And then the sort of future vision for this would be one-click memorization, where we're actually, instead of having a wizard before account opening, it would actually be integrated into account opening, and we would use data from generally identity verification or like a soft credit pull to determine eligibility. So the person would actually never need to even be presented with the concept of eligibility. I will now jump into, I almost clicked end event, which is not what I wanted to do, into the actual schools itself. So this is actually one of the sad stories. So this is the old CUNA initiative before they did the Open Your Eyes campaign, and can see that someone actually bought the domain and is using it for marketing junk. I don't know how else to say it. But the reason they bought it is because of all the backlinks posted to it. So, you have like lots of LinkedIn, not like backlinks going to it from like New York Times and, high domain authority things. And you can see that they haven't actually even, they still sort of like pretend to be CUNA. I actually want to mention this to CUNA to see if they can get it taken down. I think there's sort of like brand reputation risk for the movement. The other one was Your Money Further was bought by Union Credit, which, as you can see, they're primarily working with sort of like the largest nationally focused credit unions. Our website, not visually the most pleasing, but we do have a way where right now we just show like our customers in the results. But someone can go in and put in their address and put in their employer, and then they can choose to keep answering additional questions if they would like to find yet more credit unions they'd be eligible to join. But yeah, if we went through, we were having a number of sort of like fraud applications, so we put in a multi-factor verification, but we're still generating a lot of new members for our clients this way, which is pretty honestly remarkable given how much I dislike the user experience. Shows high intent from potential members. We also built the same thing for organizations. So if a group wanted to become a SEG or sort of like open a business account, we do the same thing for groups. And it could be becoming a SEG of a credit union, or it could be that businesses are eligible to join that credit union, but we both do like natural person and organization, basically like field of membership routing. Then this is an example of a credit union in Texas, their field of membership, they have multiple common bonds. So they both serve groups and they have community affinities called underserved areas. And then I'm going to quickly show sort of like how their workflow works. So if you went in and you put in an address that is eligible, this would be joined to you. So this could be embedded on a credit union's website, but it would just immediately tell them how they're eligible. We could honestly even skip that step if you don't want them to see it. And then it can just go straight into their account opening, and then that can be fed in. So you don't even have to ask the question. It gets fed into Meridian Link in the background so that the credit union knows the eligibility, but you don't need to have that sort of place where a consumer has to educate themselves on the credit union's field of membership and figure out how they're eligible to join. I'm doing the same thing now, but if the person was not eligible based on where they live, you could put in a company name, and actually I will show this again, but like this could either be a SEG. We also would know where the person works, the industry they work in, the parent and child relationships, all sorts of things to figure out, okay, if person works there, did they meet any type of affinity that would make them eligible? and then the same thing. So if it's, it's exactly matched to their field of membership rules. And then this is what I would say, which is making us really sort of focus on this and start looking at this again, is even with, I don't know how else to say besides sort of like our not great website right now that we made in a couple months and sort of like have just left on the shelf, we're still generating about a little bit over 100 new members a month without any of the backlinking work and without producing any new content or really investing anything in it. And so that has given us the belief that if we do now with our like more than 2 months runway, we can invest in these sort of like longer tail lines of business and focus on this where, we would end up only getting paid on the results of our efforts, which de-risks it for credit unions. But over time, we think that we could build this into a much bigger funnel for credit unions. Yeah, and I will stop there and see if anyone has any questions, thoughts, feedback. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
No questions in the chat, Sam.
All right. Well, I will stay on a bit longer in case anyone is just taking a little time to get a question, but I think otherwise that is really it. Say, if this is interesting to you, please let us know. We need early adopters to, serve as sort of like the indicator that this is a thing that we should pursue. So, yeah, please let us know if this is of interest to you.